Maryanne Spurdle from the Maxim Institute joins us now. Kia ora, Maryanne. How you
Good
doing?
morning, Andrew.
This is a complicated issue because, hey, in tough times, desperate people take desperate measures, and some people make money out of that. Not picking on Afterpay as a company, there's others involved in this space, but basically the idea of buy now, pay later. This is something the Maxim Institute has done research on. You've submitted some policy documents on this. What are some of the key issues, Maryanne?
Yeah, so buy now, pay later is a relatively new way to buy things on credit. And 4 or 5 years ago, it was the Wild West because they weren't regulated by the same rules that credit card companies and banks are under. So one of the recommendations that Maxim made was that buy now, pay later providers would be under the same legislation. So we've got the Credit Contracts and Consumer Finance Act,
Yep.
triple CFA. That governs credit cards, mortgages, our normal kind of loans that make sure that they cannot charge super steep interest, make sure that there are fair conditions, make sure that those conditions are communicated to customers. So, basically to keep people from being taken advantage of when they can't afford repayments, when they haven't read the fine print,
Yep.
that kind of thing. So one of the good things that came out of those discussions was the government did put it under the triple CFA.
Yep.
There are some little gaps. So loans over $600 require full affordability checks. Those under don't. So there's a gap there. The good thing is there's now kind of a system where buy now, pay later, like Afterpay, they can check whether a consumer has good credit scores, and they can use information that's shared to say, okay, we will give you a limit up to this point. They kind of get to determine that though. Now they don't charge interest, but they do charge fees.
Yep.
So you've got I think it's usually 4 payments. Some things are eligible for no payment on purchase. So it's in the news because Afterpay's decided that for food and groceries, petrol, you can pay nothing when you buy the product. So yeah, great if you're under pressure financially, you can fill up your car.
Yep.
However, if you still can't afford it in a month or two, well, now your $80 of petrol is $100.
Yep.
So it's more expensive money than it would have been otherwise. So it's working well for a lot of customers, but those who are most likely to depend on it are actually the ones most likely to default and then have penalties. And here's the trick with Afterpay, and I think other buy now, pay later services, is you nominate where your payment comes from, like credit
Okay.
card or bank account,
Yep.
and they automatically take it out. They get first dibs. And that means that it can have a knock-on effect to other debt.
Yeah. And spiraling downward from there. I mean, the people are desperate. If you need petrol to get the kids to school, if you have run out of food, you can understand why people take these steps. Having said that, credit companies, including the credit cards, including the banks, they don't want us to pay our debts on time. It is more lucrative to have customers that default on their debts so that you can charge them the penalties. If we all paid our debts on time, these companies would go out of business. There's a certain aspect of predatory lending involved with this.
Yeah, now there are two ways that they make money. One is the vendor pays. So
Yep.
this is like credit cards. I
Yep.
actually appreciate it when a shop goes, hey, you're going to have to pay an extra 1.8% if you use your credit card, because then I go and use the debit card instead
Yep.
because the money's sitting there. Like, why would I pay? The other shops, they're just rolling it into the cost.
Yep.
Well, any vendor who offers Afterpay, say, those costs are being shared among everybody who's purchasing something from them, because every time somebody uses Afterpay, they have to pay Afterpay.
Yep.
This is the vendor. So they do make money off the vendor. Everybody shares the cost of that. And then they make another little whack off of, and apparently it's between 5 to 8% of people using Afterpay who are defaulting. So it's working fine for most customers.
Yeah, although that 8% are the ones that can least afford to do it. Those are
Exactly.
the desperate people. This is where the predatory aspect comes in. This is why we need regulations, is to protect the most vulnerable in this space. Now, as mentioned beforehand, and hey, great work of the Maxim Institute in this space. This is what the Maxim Institute is for, a think tank creating a policy that is implemented by government departments, but not necessarily applied. I think, there's a little bit of lobbying, a little bit of relaxation of the rules around Afterpay. And
lending in general,
Yeah.
Which affects things like Afterpay. So I think around 2022, 2023, some of the lending, it could get quite detailed if you're applying for a loan. And so some of those things were relaxed because it was, apparently blocking people who were perfectly fine to borrow money. It was just too onerous. So they wound some of those back a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, that does mean that when things relax, it's those who can least afford to pay who are most likely to end up with loans that they can't afford. The Salvation Army, news this morning, they are trying to get this government to amend the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act 2012 to prohibit buy now, pay later for alcohol specifically.
Okay.
Here's an interesting thing about alcohol, which I didn't know until I read what they're up to. Apparently, you can actually bypass the whole, if a supplier isn't offering buy now, pay later, you can use DoorDash.
Oh.
And there's another online order and deliver company called Gimme, specifically for alcohol products.
Wow.
So here's an added, how do you regulate that? Because you've got these separate companies who will deliver food that you purchase through them, and they're offering Afterpay.
Yeah.
So it becomes incredibly tricky now that the genie's out of the bottle with this kind of small lending option.
And honestly, if you don't have the money to buy alcohol, don't worry. You don't even need to be sober to buy alcohol. Somebody will drive it to your house, no money down. For people who struggle, who have addiction in this area, this is the worst possible type of temptation, really.
Yeah. It definitely isn't helping people, because if you've got the money to pay for petrol or alcohol or whatever, you don't need to pay a premium on it. So we have options without Afterpay to get what we need.
Yeah.
It's meeting not a need. It's actually catering to our need for convenience.
Yeah.
And those people who are finding opportunities to get things that they can't actually afford. Some people are defaulting to this, and it actually compounds the problems they already have. It's not helping them. It's compounding problems. It's hard if you can't fill up the car, but pretty much any other option would be better than using Afterpay to do that.
Yeah. Or just loading up the cost of going, well, you know what? I'm going to DoorDash this. So, and all of the delivery costs and all of that built in turns out to be the most expensive way of getting food or alcohol delivered to your house because of, again, all the fine print that not necessarily everybody reads and understands in detail, right?
Yeah. And this just highlights the need, because there's only so much you can regulate.
Yeah.
It highlights the need for community services, for services like CAP, debt counseling. Like, those kind of things are what people really need. They don't need easy access to money. Yeah.
Exactly. Hey, I really appreciate the work that Maxim has done in this space and working in partnership with CAP and with Salvation Army and others. Such an important topic. Maryanne, thanks for shining a light on it. Thanks for joining us on the program today.
Thanks, Andrew.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.